When we say someone is married to their job, it means that they're so into it, there isn't room for them to love or connect with anyone or anything else in their lives. Not really. So I want to introduce you to a parallel idea and ask if you might just a little bit have become married to your past trauma. Do you know what I mean by that? I know it sounds really judgmental, but trauma's real, and I'm not denying what you know happened to you. I had trauma too. And I know that people are very quick to blame those of us with CPTSD for the obvious mistakes and quirks that anyone paying attention is going to notice about us, especially when we haven't found a method of recovery that helps us yet. You know, we get into crazy relationships over and over again, we isolate, we get lost in negative beliefs that the world is against us, that kind of thing. And people notice. So to me, people who live with trauma symptoms versus those who just sit on the sidelines judging us and telling us how simple it ought to be, telling you to just fix the trauma, like, oh gosh, what's wrong with you? Because of course, they would never have that problem. And they think we're just being big babies. So we get that kind of put downs in the comments sometimes. And usually it's just someone who thinks they have all the answers, who's watching videos about healing trauma for some reason. But I got one the other day that was, yes, kind of judgmental and mean, really, but they had kind of accurately described what I call being married to your trauma. And I'll talk about that. Let me just read to you the comment, okay? I've got the pencil and everything. All right. It seems to me like people who identify with CPTSD are addicted to this identity. Could this be part of the inability to grow? Quote, no one understands how my CPTSD affects me. I'm so empty. She's quoting people perhaps in the comment section and the gist of what they say. Actually, people do understand. Many do. It's not about that at all. It's about your inability to be compassionate toward yourself and actually bond with people, even just one person. And then quoting again, sort of about what people who are stuck in their trauma say. I've tried for many years. It didn't help. Well, you tried, but you didn't really attach, says the commenter. The cure of trauma is attachment. Skills and experience, knowledge and discipline are all important for living a fulfilling life. As social creatures, we need to attach to at least one person. It should have started with our mothers. People with CPTSD over-identify with this victim role. Sorry, that's the truth. All right, that's what my commenter said. All right, I think they nailed something here, but let me tell you what I think they didn't get right at all. And that's this idea that the cure for CPTSD is this one simple solution, which it isn't. And they're saying, you just need to attach. You just need to be compassionate towards yourself. And they're saying it like you're being stupid for not just doing, just attach. Why don't you just love yourself? Which is the whole problem with CPTSD, right? There's an injury there that makes this process that might be automatic for some people something almost impossible to do for other people. And it's like saying to someone who's falling down the stairs, hey, just don't fall down the stairs. Something's happening that's very difficult to change. That's the problem with CPTSD. It says people with CPTSD over-identify with this victim role. Sorry, that's the truth. So I think that the commenter does have something of a point here. We see a lot of it here in the comments. You see one kind of comment where people share what helped them, they encourage others, they're like, hey, I did the daily practice today, or I have this therapist who really helps me feel my feelings, or different. We hear success stories, and those are super empowering for people to read. But there's this other type of comment, if I'm just lumping them in two big categories, and it's like, oh, this will never work for me. It's too late for me. People today, they're just selfish narcissists. It's interesting because people who say that, I guess, are exempting themselves, right? Which is, well, it's a little bit the definition of a narcissist, just saying, right? Or some people come on and they tell these long stories to everyone in the comments about all the bad things that happened to them. And I'm not totally positive why they're coming to my channel to say that. Maybe they see the word trauma, in the materials there. They go, oh, I have trauma. I relate to that. And they want to share about it. But they wouldn't have seen, basically all my videos where what I teach is over and over that there's very little healing in retelling terrible stories. It may have happened, but it's not who you are. And you may need to talk about it, but not forever. Like if it hasn't made you feel better yet, it could be time to shift gears. And your healing is going to require that you learn a good way to discharge all those random negative thoughts. So it's not just like, oh, it's so bad, I feel so bad, I feel so bad. Talking about it can amp it up. There's another way that doesn't just use up your life force. And you can express yourself in a way that's constructive and clarifying, and that helps you to ultimately do good in the world, that helps you to become happy. Believing that you're a hopeless case and then coming to YouTube channels that are about healing, telling everyone that healing can never happen, well, that takes a certain kind of dedication, a certain kind of unfeelingness towards other people about what they're experiencing right now. They're having hope on a channel and you're in there kind of raining on the parade. And I just want to set the record straight. I don't see a correlation between people's pessimism about their lives and their future and the circumstances of their lives. That I see people in pretty good situations and pretty terrible situations feeling pessimism. But that's also true for what I see around optimism, in a sense that I can do this, I can take steps to heal. And I see people who are in very difficult circumstances who are working on that point of view and working it, not just like telling themselves empty mantras, but, just saying, I think there's progress that I can make here, and they act on it. It's very, very important to be able to do that. That's like the number one thing that I see of who heals, is that they are open-minded about the fact that something can work, that healing is possible. So I just had someone today say to me in the comments, well, you're so lucky to be married. I'm 35 and I'm afraid that will never happen for me. That's exactly what this person said. I think it was a woman. And I was like, there it is. That's the thing I'm talking about, a self-fulfilling prophecy of somebody who is married to their trauma. Or at least let's say they're being monogamous with their trauma. They can't really date anybody because they're really committed to this idea. I'm 35, it can't happen. Right? So a belief like that will take up all the space where all the things that you want in life are supposed to go. And you need space in your life for what you're kind of trying to make happen. That's life's project, is, creating things in your life. In this example, a 35-year-old thinking that their ship has sailed forever, it's a good example of how those beliefs can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. So I commented back to them, and I let them know that I married at age 50, and I asked them why they felt like it was already too late for that. And that's when they let down that barrier of pessimism, of that identity of a traumatized person. It's like, it's done for me. That's what I am. And they shared something much more tender and real and hopeful with me. And they said, crappy childhood fairy, wow, that makes me hopeful. Thank you. But for me, I don't know. I can't seem to heal this anxious attachment style, they said. And these feelings are literal torture. I just lost the happiest relationship I've ever had because of an emotional outburst. Okay, so now I see where the pessimism is. He wants 3 months of space and then maybe we can talk. And this is devastating torture, and I hate myself that I can't overcome this no matter how hard I try. I feel hopeless about life. All right, I get it. That's very hard. And I asked, have you tried the free techniques I teach? And they hadn't. And now they say they will. So, hey, look out, trauma. This person just changed their mind about their sad limits. Just like, I can't be happy. This is never going to happen. This is torture. Somebody has set a boundary. And I know in relationships, when somebody takes a time out, that is very threatening. It might mean it's over. It's a real loss of control. It's a sign that something's gone wrong. I get it. But in another sense, it's a healthy sign that somebody has encountered something in the relationship. Maybe the other person has encountered something in the relationship that they know needs space to consider. You can't hurry love, right? You can't hurry it, and you can't push it. You can't push it into being. So sometimes people have to figure out if this is the right thing for them. And it's absolutely a good thing if somebody does that, as sad as it is, that it may mean they're not coming back and that you miss them right now. It's almost like pessimism is a little companion, right? It's like your little buddy. It goes with you everywhere. It's like, I'm not going to hope anything. And you think that's going to protect you from getting hurt, but does it? It doesn't, right? What happens when you can start to release that pessimism, and I'll tell you about how you can do that. But when you release it, something else comes in and occupies the space where it was, and it's optimism. It's open-mindedness. It's, I'm going to check that out, and I will try. Because remember, your trauma is not who you are. It's something that happened to you, and you were hurt by it. But by their very nature, the injuries that you sustained, they're injuries. They can heal. They don't define you. They're not your identity, even though the internet is full of content and communities where people get way deep into what happened to them, and they have a lot of labels for themselves and other people, and it's what they're all about. They wear it like a cloak and a mask. That's the victim identity. So this can feel like it's helping in the moment, and maybe for a moment it does help, it just helps to make that separation and declare what happened to me is not right. But in the long run, it's a curse. And these cursed people show up all up and down the comments with their pessimism and their rebuttals to me when I sort of say, hey, there's hope, here's something you can try. They go, yeah, but what about if you work in an opera house and you can't, there's always these what abouts, but what about me? Like, obviously it can't work. And it's like a dare or something to prove me wrong in me saying you can heal. It's possible to heal. And if you don't want to heal, you can definitely talk yourself out of it. And that's kind of what I see them as doing. And that's okay, because people are not just like all the time ready to do what it takes to heal. It takes a whole lot of vulnerability to face the problem, to be honest with yourself about it. It takes a lot of energy and stamina to kind of stay with a solution. I think we know instinctively when we make a big change in a traumatic pattern that we're in is we know what's coming is that we're going to lose some people in our lives. Friends are going to fall away. A partner is not going to work out. And who hasn't sort of hung on to a relationship by trying to just fit themselves to the crappy relationship and just go, it's probably just me. I've got to have lower expectations for people being basically polite or decent to me. That's what we do. That's what we do until we don't, until we wake up and go, okay, I can't do this anymore. So it's not going to work on me if you try to persuade me that healing is impossible. I know that's not the case. So people will say in effect, though, but my case is different. And of course, all our cases are different. And what happened to some people really is gravely worse than what happened to another person. But the solution is still the same, to start where you are. And once you've expressed to someone what happened to you, to also ask yourself, what actually are my trauma symptoms? And look for ways to begin to heal those. This is so much more straightforward and doable than trying to look at the past and see if you can change your relationship to things that happened then. By nature, that can't really be done. So this is the only attitude I think that works. And in effect, it's a divorce from your trauma. You were married to your trauma. Now you're like, you know what? It's over. This is not where I live anymore. This is not what I am. I'm not Mrs. Trauma. So you used to be stuck in this traumatic situation, but don't stay married to it. Get out of there. Cut the cord. Get back to who you really are and build from there. Build. So what are some things you can do to separate from your trauma identity? First, start to be more conscious about what you say about your trauma. When, how often, to whom, in what spirit do you talk about it? When you talk a lot about trauma, it makes it hard for you to be open to other people or sensitive to them. It does function as a wall. It's a shield. It's a shield that protects you. It's like, hey, I'm a traumatized person. That's what I'm about. That's what I know right now. And it's kind of like it's a way to put a wall up. So it holds people back a little bit. You don't have to tell people you meet so soon in a relationship. It becomes something important to know about you. But it's not your identity. It's part of your story of what happened in the past. All right, number 2, start hanging out with a mix of people, not just fellow trauma survivors. Practice new ways to get to know people that don't involve sharing of trauma, because that's what we do, right? It's like, that's how we make friends. We're like, oh, I like you. Can I tell you what happened to me when I was 5? Okay. Well, it was really terrible. And then you tell them and they go, oh my God, that happened to me too. I'm sort of laughing because I used to do this so much. I gradually realized, being that this is not the main thing about me, that I feel better getting to know people talking about, more recent things, more positive things. I want them to know that first. I want to have a way to get to know people a little bit before I decide whether I tell them deep stuff about me that chances are Your average person who doesn't know you well, they can't really hear that and receive it very well. It's very hard to have compassion for people when you don't really know them or know the context. And, but that's what it is. We're sort of, we need the love. We're like, hey, maybe I'll get it from you. So it's premature. It's premature. If you want to stop being identified with your trauma, you don't want it to define you, just don't talk about it so much and don't be more thoughtful about who you tell. All right, number 3, practice setting boundaries so that you can release others from responsibility to not trigger you. Do you ever do that? Do you like, everybody, when I just broke up with this person, don't talk about him, don't say his name, which I understand. But if you're still doing that 2 months later, you're trying to make other people hold boundaries against your own triggers. And that doesn't work. You can't really make people take care of you like that for long. And they don't like it. They don't like to be sort of used like that. So instead, what you can do is you can learn to calm your triggers so that if you do run into this ex, your triggers are calmer. You can handle it. You can maybe get a little support from a friend and be like, oh gosh, he's here. He's at the bar. And they support you. But it doesn't turn into this big thing that you're mad that other people allowed this to happen. They are not responsible to keep you from getting triggered. And this is one of the most empowering things you can take away from this video. You have the power to calm your triggers, and no one else, really. But you can ask, that's legit. But it just people don't comply all that easily. Number 4, so that you can have that sort of control over how triggered you get and learn to de-trigger yourself, learn techniques that help you do that. If you don't have one, you can learn them from me. It's the free daily practice course. I'm always talking about it. I've got a link down below in the description section. I encourage you to take it. You can learn and try these techniques in less than an hour. And also free are Zoom calls that I hold twice a month with everybody. If you've taken the course, you're invited. I invite everybody. Hundreds of people come. We use the techniques together and I answer questions. It's very cool. And it's a technique that's unlike perhaps anything you've tried before to help calm your symptoms. When you've got your own techniques, you can take responsibility for feeling safe wherever you go. Your safety is that you know how to untrigger yourself. You know how to handle what comes. Safety is really the power to make choices, to say, you know what, I don't like the way this is going. I'm going to leave right now, and you get yourself out of there. Or I feel calm right now. Whoever shows up at that party, I'm going to go ahead and go, and I know that I'll be able to handle it. That's your safety. That's your empowerment. It's always going to depend on having some mastery over calming your triggers. All right, number 5. Seek out and befriend people who have some success healing from their difficult past. Let them rub off on you. Encourage them. Praise them. Be curious and supportive. And when you feel the urge to negatively contrast yourself, like, oh, they got married and I'm not married, or they've got it all together, they got a college degree, I'm so far behind. When you feel tempted to do that, or, get into the story, my trauma was worse, I think that's a lot of what's going on. We feel bad about where we are and we want to pull up the trauma and remind ourselves and everybody, it's like, yeah, but I had this thing happen, I have a reason. And you do have a reason. You do have a reason why things got slowed down. That's okay. I don't think people are judging you as much as you think. So fight that urge to compare yourself negatively. And if you need to, you can use my daily practice techniques to, get those thoughts out of your head and onto paper. And then save your voice of what you really express, what you do express with other people, is to share your progress, share the hopeful possibilities. That is so helpful to people. Talk yourself into hope. Broadcast hope. You don't have to pretend everything's perfect. You can't control all your despairing thoughts, but you can treat them for what they are. Get out of the misery loves company mindset. Don't try to recruit people into it. Don't try to convince people to believe your fears and your resentments. See if you can shift that desire by bringing your awareness to it. And one good place where you can practice expressing hope and expressing encouragement is in my comments section right here. Try it. It's really powerful. There's great people, lifting each other up. And you too can have your spirits lifted up, not just by having something nice said to you, but by saying kind, encouraging things to other people there. Try it. It opens your mind. It opens your heart. And whether you think so or not, it can have a huge effect on other people. It can really make a huge difference in their life. Just one thing that you say. So no horrors, not the horror stories, but the successes, even if they're small. And that is one of the most beautiful things you can do. You might be saving a life. So you might say to yourself, that's fake optimism or that's toxic positivity, right? But it is not a lie to focus on what's working. You can say, I was having this problem. You can describe it a little bit. I tried doing this and then something shifted. When you describe that trajectory, this is the essence of a success story, a story of hope. It is so contagious. Watch what happens when you tell a story of hope and, see what you experience. Now, if you love this topic and you feel ready, like you want to release all that trauma, all the negative, fearful, and resentful thinking, I have a step-by-step guide to breaking out of that. You can do it today. It lists tips for feeling happier right away, and you can download that for free and start feeling better as soon as you do it. These are very powerful tips, and it's what I used when I broke out of the hardest period of my life. So check that out right here, right there, and I will see you very soon.